So that's the last round of pitches for this session. Now, if you had the QR code open and you're like, oh my gosh, I love what I just heard, this is the opportunity to vote. However, I'm going to invite two of our experts who are going to be asking the startup founders more questions in case that will clarify who would you like to vote for. So next I would like to invite Sriram Giridhar, who was with us earlier on this morning from HHLA Next, who is leading innovation, scouting, and venture capital and partnerships at HHLA's Innovation. Thank you, Sriram, for joining us again. And Jesper Bank from Port of Esbjerg. I'll get there. Denmark. Thank you. Industry leader in port strategy and resilience, bringing a frontline perspective from one of Europe's most advanced port environments. And I would love to invite the three startup founders who just pitched to join the stage as well. We should all have microphones that are already running. You should have a bottle of water right in front of you. The stage is yours. Enjoy.
All right. So to all three of you, thanks for the presentations. You know, a port is an intermediate thing between something and something else, right? So in many cases, the port is just a small dot on a big supply chain. So when you address a port, you need to understand our role. And this can be different for different ports. In some cases, the port is actually not the customer. It's our customers that are your customers, right? So my first input to all of you would be, you need to step into our role and see how small we actually are or how big we are in these setups. Mentioned before from my colleague from Vienna, we don't have all the money in the world. We have some power, we can do something, but we are perhaps not your customers. Our customers are your customers. And we will not buy from you unless our customers need your product. So look into that. Okay, so quantum computer. I know I'm wearing an iPhone 7, so that's my level of this. But I know if it doesn't work, I'm in deep shit, right? so I get your point on your product. But again, to just what I said, you are just one. We have many big issues that can close the port. I can name 10, and you are just one of them. And you need to balance this, and perhaps you even need to include in your presentation on a new product, like a scan of what are the risks for a port, where your part is one thing, but there are many physical things, and we have a lot of other things. That would be an input, and I'd like to hear your remark on this.
No, I completely agree with you. I think in our discussions as well, we found that the port operations are so extensive, the digital footprint is vast, and enormous supply chains as well, right? And I think what we are trying to do is to look at one of the many problems and to try and solve that problem, which could grind everything to a halt, because if your supply chain, if there are issues with the supply chain, then it can pretty much stall operations. And the critical problem for us is this idea that nobody is looking at the level beneath the networks and what is really keeping ports and supply chains safe. So, but I take your point as well, that it is a cog in a wheel, yes.
And one thing you have to be aware of is that the port, there's not one system controlling the port. We have a port system that is controlling traffic, perhaps, but then there are terminal operators, and we might have 5 terminal operators. They have each their system, and then there are truckers having it, and then there are the HR. There are a lot of different systems. So how are you approaching this ecosystem of systems?
We are looking at the IT within the port for now. So that's our first approach, because if that fails, then the ports cannot interact with the suppliers, etc. It stalls the operational work that has to happen, the day-to-day activities. So we're looking at the IT systems first. And I know there are lots of issues with OT and with all the other systems, but the IT and the supply chain that feeds into the IT is what we're looking at right now. Thank you.
Not specifically to each startup, but I have something across the board. Maybe I just let you ask individually.
Okay, then I'll run on. I have a complete no. So I'll turn to Gaist, right? with this system, also appreciated infrastructure. When I listen to you, I think, when do we know that a problem is a problem? We have roads in our port that are shit roads, but it doesn't matter because we don't use them, right? So I was thinking here, when we evaluate what we need to repair, because we don't have all the money in the world, it's not just out from this is going bad with this road or this road. Is this okay? What are we going to do with this road? How are we going to use it? Will we have alternative use? So I was missing some kind of the use case in prioritizing. We have in our port a bunch of problems with the infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, the roads that are really bad, you don't need a technology like ours to find them. But really, that's not the point. Really, what we're looking for is the roads that you can start to preserve and do the preventative treatments that stop them getting into that stage. And that allows us to start putting very innovative solutions in terms of those treatments in at the right time, and that can save you an enormous amount of money in the maintenance, but also in the lost time in closing those roads and creating those diversions. Obviously, a port is limited by its size, and you've only got so many alternatives. But we do work with whole network operators, entire cities, etc. Well, that's a big problem. So it's about prevention rather than the cure in many cases, and that's where you can make the savings.
Yeah, I get your point. I still would, in your arguments and in your presentation and your products, you recognize the traffic load on these, and when you identify a problem, is that a big problem or a small problem? That is that will be an input. That was what I was thinking. Are you aware that there are drone technologies that kind of overlap with the concept that you have?
Yeah, and we use drones in some applications, yeah. The difference with a drone, and particularly when you've got a lot of traffic, of course, they can't see through the vehicles that are on the road, for one thing, and also they're limited by issues with weather. Yeah. But we're talking about cameras that can, we're only a few meters off the ground. We can get right down into very, very tiny cracks, which is what you need to be able to detect if you're going to start to look at these preventative treatments that stop those smaller problems becoming bigger ones and then causing the big expense and the inconvenience of closing roads in the future. And you can get the same kind of data from traffic as well, traffic data and cars, but it's usually very coarse and also prone to false positives and negatives, whereas ours is much more accurate in that respect.
And you're thinking on your product being relevant for small ports, mid-sized ports, or big ports?
Indeed. In fact, we're working with a range of different sized ports in the UK right now. The bigger the port, of course, the more they can get back in terms of efficiencies. But the small ports as well. Even a small port has a lot of roadways. We're talking tens and maybe 50, 60 kilometres of roads and footways, and there's a lot of infrastructure there in just a small area.
Yeah. For many ports, things are very, very practical, and I have some of my doggers. They ride a bicycle, and if they see a problem, take a photo and then send to me. Fix this, please. Yeah. So there are a system for something still, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if to go out there and spot a defect as it occurs, a safety defect, is something that having those kind of more agile systems is useful for. What we're looking at though is the entire network in a snapshot and being able to model over time. Looking at the different investment models that you might want to apply over 10, 20, 25 years. And even you can make small efficiencies over that long term, adds up to massive amount of savings going forward. One of our clients who were opposite, they invested, I think it was £25,000 with us on a survey. They then went and invested from that 30 million into their road network, but they're estimating £100 million back in terms of return on that investment in that mitigating some of those bigger problems down the line.
Okay, I'll let you be then. Okay, Cyraco, if you, if you're going to solve what you pretended, this is good stuff. You are trying to streamline a bunch of systems. This is we are just soaking in systems in ports. So this is very great. But I didn't get it. I really didn't get from your presentation what would I be buying? What would I be looking into? I think I got the concept, but
Yeah, so basically we come from the inspection and certification. So initially it was more about compliance, so safety, security, inspections, and make sure that these processes that are very inefficient are actually done in a more efficient and more automated manner, and using AI in order to support and also to do some automated processing there. But as we go into our customers and we manage to do, for instance, a simple example that I can think of. So we need to check if, for instance, put a monitoring system or an inspection system that verifies if the staff, if the workers are wearing the PPEs, the helmets, and so on, 24/7, and so on. But so that's very easy. So we have models that we train ourselves to implement, and the system takes care of the processing in real time and detects whether there are, for instance, incidents in that respect. But the same that this applies for this particular use case, it can apply for a lot more, because our system, you can create from scratch your own models and implement them. It doesn't matter. It's computer vision models, from object detection, or all kinds of models that help you detect not only this kind of, let's say, transversal use case that you will find across the industry, but also very specific, let's say, incidents you will find in the port sector or in any other sector. And the way that it works normally is that we start with one of these more generic use cases, and when the customers see how easy it is to implement, and how you really don't need to be an expert in AI or anything like that in order to be able to use our system, and say, okay, then can you do this as well, and this other thing. And so with our kind of, as I was saying, our Lego approach, we can build this layered system so that we can provide this end-to-end process that says, okay, we combine all these different technologies, computer vision, LLM, OCR, and so on, to provide some results. As another example that we are doing right now, somewhat related, so it's in the import-export, so we need to check if the merchandises comply with some standards in terms of labeling, symbols, and so on. So we implemented our system so that we can detect, the users can scan, just take pictures or videos of the merchandise. This goes into an OCR layer, object detection, LLM, cross-check with the standards.
I got your point.
And in a matter of seconds, you got the results.
But you are actually trying to solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But for a lot, you should be aware, for a lot of different companies, this is not all the ports. So you are spreading something in. I can solve any problem that you have.
Well, not any problem.
No, I know. But the point is that this is something to do with the port, and some of these things are not to do with the port. So again, you need to see you need to be more clear on what is actually for the port and what are for our customers directly. This is that there's a point there. Yes, and again, concluding my questions to all of you again, ports are 120% drowning in operations. There are zero resources for building up, resources to building things up or to analyzing things. We are drowning in operation. This is why we make innovation companies, besides to do something else. But we tell them, don't ever call us to be over there. So there is an issue here. You need, when you approach the port, you need to be extremely sharp. And you know, we live in a weather dependent. This is in our DNA. What vessels become tomorrow? We look out the window. Will it be raining, stormy, or weather? So we are extremely hands-on things, right? And when you approach us, you need to have that DNA. Otherwise, you can talk to the innovator companies in our ports, and you can talk and you can talk and you talk, but you'll never sell anything.
No, may I answer? So
that was not that was just an input, but yeah.
That's completely understood, and we have the same, let's say, challenge each time that we work with a different sector. We need to understand the sector, but thankfully, it's something that we managed to do quite fast.
Okay, Sridhar.
So, as an innovation unit from a major port operator in Hamburg, I'm very accustomed to taking the other side of the table, more on the side of the startups. So I will try to play, I don't know, an angel's advocate here. So guys, this question is for all of you guys, right? What do you expect prospective customers to do better, especially in the first touch points? And the second question following that is, do key decision makers lack understanding of the tech that you're talking about? this would be more on the go-to-market, on the customer adoption and the first touch points. Are you getting some sort of a weird pushback which maybe you might not have expected before, or trying to go along these lines?
Certainly answer the second part of the question. In terms of our clients understanding the tech, in terms of our application, definitely, because like you said, these ports or different facilities we work are drowned in operations, and they can really understand the problem if they, their roadways that keep everything going are very valuable to them. It's the biggest, a road is actually the most valuable asset any country can have, let alone a port. So if those stop, their operations stop. So it's very easy to articulate the benefits that we can bring. How we do that is something that we can articulate afterwards in many ways, but the benefits of what they want to hear about, and it's very easy to get that across when we're talking about something that is very easy to understand. A road being closed and what that means to their operations is an easy sell, actually, if you can stop that. Yeah.
Sorry if I can. I think it's a really good question. Thank you for being on our side. I'd say that it really comes down to ports that have been hacked. Really understand what we're talking about, because they have gone through that experience of being hacked, and they understand what happens when you can't access your systems. You can't get into the building because you've got hackers who have taken control over everything because you left one tiny window open. So I think it's really experience that enables them to understand what's the next wave of cyber attacks, what do they look like, how can we start planning now. So I think it takes a bit of experience, but I think it really depends. I think we have to talk to the right people, the right departments, the right mindset, and it really comes down to the boards. Am I right in thinking that the boards who sit in ports play a very, very valuable role?
Yeah. Also, I wanted to add regarding the second point that it's indeed challenging to, and I'm speaking as a CTO, that when you're talking about technologies, maybe you're kind of missing I'm kind of missing the point, because the customer doesn't want to know about the technology. They want to have the problem solved. And so basically the main way to do that is to forget for one moment about technology and say, look, these are the problems that you have. You are telling me your problems, and the way that we are doing, we are going to resolve this. We are going to provide these KPIs, these metrics. So if the counterpart understands that somehow a process that takes hours can be done now in a question of minutes or even seconds, that's all they need to know, and that's basically what will drive them to adopt your solution.
Right, so no one answered my first question. Let me repeat that again, just to make sure at least one of you guys answered, and I prepared for it as well. Yeah, what do you expect prospective customers to do better, especially in the first touch points? Maybe they don't respond, they see your presentation, don't reply, right? What do you expect them to do, better? You might meet them at a conference, and then as a founder, you would have a beautiful conversation, and then later you try to, write them on LinkedIn, and then boom, no reply. So I've myself seen that and experienced that. So have you seen something in this sector which is pronounced, perhaps?
I think it's really hard to understand who is in charge of the kind of solution that you have. What does it fall under? I've just found out yesterday that cybersecurity falls under security in general in Spain, right? Now, that's so different from the UK. It doesn't work that way. And I also found out that there's certain things that we need to keep in mind. For example, with working with the US ports, we need to understand that we need to have a base there. So it's all those different things that you learn when you're talking to people. What can organizations do better? I mean, I suppose it's pointing us to the right people. Otherwise, we spend a lot of time in moving through the channels to tell us who really is in charge of cyber. For me, for example, would be great.
Yeah, expanding on the same point, I would say that if the customer doesn't respond to your pitch or to your, let's say, your what you are saying, it's probably your fault, not the customer's fault. So you need to be able to convince, and for that you need to take a practical approach. Of course, it's not easy, and it's not easy to know who is the key decision maker, and who you need to understand the structure and address the right person and so on. But that's on the startup. That's not really on the customer. Really, the customer has their pain points, their needs, and you need to be able to address them and convey this message as clearly as possible.
What a nice guy.
And I would just, again, timing is crucial. And you might hit a bad day, don't give up. Then hit another day, then you will find that 5 seconds where we are listening to you. So even though you have a bad connection, try again.
Right, I think we have 1 minute to go. Do we open it up for the audience? Have any quick questions to? Right, so quick, please. I saw his hand up first. Right?
Address the one question over here. It was addressed before about the system of systems in ports, but more and more we're starting to see more digital collaboration across stakeholders. From what I understood of your system at the moment, it's a vulnerability assessment looking at quantum, but can you actually implement it proactively so that as you're developing digital collaboration, it goes in at that point, so it's assessing it as an ongoing proactive tool?
Yes, it can be 100%, and I think that's such a great question because there's something called crypto agility that you can start building in now, so that it doesn't matter if NIST changes standards, you are agile enough to keep yourself updated over time, 100%. Right.
I think we are at time. I am so sorry. Are you going to stick around to ask a question? Maybe is that okay? So sorry. But please give all our panelists and startups a huge round of applause.